The paper tore in two. Clara May Whitmore watched Ezra Hartwell rip their marriage contract down the middle, his hand steady while hers shook against her worn carpet bag. 23 days of travel, 1,800 miles of hope. Gone with one word he spat like venom: Barren. She'd crossed half the country to become a wife. Now she stood in a frozen Wyoming stage station. December wind howling through the cracks, watching her future turn to ash. Stay until the end to see how a rejected woman became the heart of a broken family, and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The stagecoach lurched to a stop hard enough to throw Clara against the wooden sidewall. Sweetwater Station. The driver's voice cut through the wind. End of the line. God help you, miss. Clara grabbed her carpet bag. Her fingers were numb. Her lips were cracked. 23 days of rattling bones and stale bread, and rehearsing what she'd say to Ezra Hartwell when she finally saw his face. I'm a practical man, Miss Whitmore. I need a wife to help raise my 3 children. They need a mother's touch. A mother's touch. She'd clung to those words like a drowning woman. The cold slammed into her the second her boots hit frozen ground. She smelled wood smoke and horse sweat, and something wild, the scent of a land that didn't give a damn whether she lived or died. Mrs. Whitmore. She turned. Ezra Hartwell stood 10 feet away, hat in his hands. He looked nothing like his photograph. That man had smiled eyes, soft at the corners. This man was carved from granite, sharp jaw, hard mouth, shoulders broad enough to block out the gray sky behind him. Mr. Hartwell. She made her voice steady. I'm Clara Whitmore. His eyes swept over her, fast, efficient. The way a man looked at a horse he was deciding not to buy. Journey was long, he said. 23 days. Roads are closing, snow's coming. He picked up her trunk like it weighed nothing. We need to talk. Inside. Something in his voice made Clara's gut clench. This wasn't how the letters said it would happen. He was supposed to be nervous, but eager, ready to take his bride home. Ezra Hartwell looked like a man about to cut off a limb. The station house was barely warmer than outside. One window frosted solid. A pot-bellied stove putting out more smoke than heat. Ezra set down her trunk and stayed standing, arms crossed, back to the stove. Got your letter, he said. The one from Cheyenne. Clara's stomach dropped through the floor. The letter. God help her. The letter. Dr. Morrison had made her write it. It's only fair, the doctor had said. Some men need children from a marriage. She'd written it in a Cheyenne hotel room at 2 a.m, tears blurring every word. There was an accident. A carriage. The doctors say I cannot bear children. I understand if this changes things. Should have told me before you left Boston, Ezra said. I know. Would have saved us both a lot of trouble. Clara lifted her chin. She would not cry. Not in front of this man who looked at her like she'd stolen something. I'll take the next stage back east, she said. If you can recommend a boarding house. No stage coming. Ezra cut her off. Roads close in a week. Won't open till April. The room tilted. 5 months. Give or take. 5 months. Stranded. No money. No friends. No way out. Clara's legs gave. She sank into the chair, carpet bag sliding from her fingers. I see. Ezra was quiet. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its edge. Just barely. Got 3 children. Josephine's 11. Samuel's 8. Emmeline just turned 5. He paused. Their mother passed 20 months back. Pneumonia. I'm sorry. They need schooling. Josie reads fine, but Samuel struggles. Emmy don't know her letters. His jaw worked. I'm no teacher, can barely keep the ranch going. Clara looked up slow. Understanding hit. Your letters said you taught at an academy, Ezra said. That true? 7 years. Literature and composition. Good. He nodded once. You stay through winter. Teach the children. Earn your keep. His voice hardened again. Separate room. Separate everything. Come spring, I'll pay your way back to Boston. It wasn't a proposal. It was a transaction. Cold as the wind outside. But what choice did she have? I accept, Clara said quietly. Thank you. Don't thank me. His eyes were flat. Ain't doing you a favor. We leave in an hour. Dress warm. The ride's 3 hours, and it gets colder after dark. He walked out without looking back. Clara waited until his footsteps faded. Then she pressed both hands over her face and let herself break. Just for a minute, just long enough to mourn the future she'd traveled 1,800 miles to find. Then she dried her eyes, straightened her spine, and started repacking. The wagon ride was 3 hours of frozen silence. Ezra sat rigid, eyes on the road, hands steady on the reins. Clara huddled under a wool blanket that smelled of horse and smoke, watching the Wyoming wilderness roll past like a fever dream. Everything was too big. The sky stretched forever gray and heavy. Mountains rose like sleeping giants. The wind never stopped cutting through every layer she wore. Ranch is over that ridge, Ezra said finally. Clara sat up, and there it was, a log house with 2 chimneys trailing smoke, outbuildings scattered around it, fences running off into the dark. Even in the gloom she could see care in the construction. This had been a home once, a real one. Stay close, Ezra said, helping her down. His hands on her waist were brief, businesslike. Children don't know about you. Didn't want to get their hopes up. In case I wasn't good enough. The front door burst open before they reached the porch. 3 small bodies tumbled out in a tangle of voices. Papa, you're home. Did you bring peppermints? Emmy hit me, and Josie wouldn't. Enough. One word from Ezra. The children froze. Clara got her first real look at them in the lamplight spilling from the doorway. Josephine, 11. Tall and sharp-elbowed, red hair in a braid coming undone, green eyes already hostile. Samuel, 8. Small for his age, dark hair with a stubborn cowlick, eyes too old for his face. Emmeline, 5. Honey curls wild around a solemn face, clutching a rag doll with one arm missing. This is Miss Whitmore, Ezra said once they were inside. She's come from Boston. She'll be your teacher this winter. 3 pairs of eyes fixed on Clara. She forced a smile. Hello, I'm very pleased to meet you. Josie's chin lifted. You're the lady from the letters, the one Papa was going to marry? The room went dead silent. Josephine, Ezra's voice dropped low. But you're not marrying him now. Josie's eyes were ice. You're just going to be our teacher, not our mother. That's enough. It's true, ain't it? I said enough. Josie's mouth snapped shut, but her eyes stayed on Clara, full of something that looked a lot like hate. Emmy stepped forward, clutching her broken doll. Are you going to leave like Mama did? Clara crouched down, eye level. Your mama didn't want to leave you, sweetheart. But she's gone. Emmy's voice was matter-of-fact. Everyone goes away. Clara's throat closed. I'll be here all winter. I promise. That ain't very long. No, Clara admitted. It's not. Samuel hadn't said a word. Now he erupted into a coughing fit so violent it bent him double wet, rattling the sound of something wrong deep in his chest. Ezra was at his side in 2 steps. Easy, son. Breathe through it. The coughing went on for nearly a minute. When it stopped, Samuel's face was red, his eyes streaming. I'm fine, he gasped. But Ezra's face said he wasn't. Said this happened too often. Said it scared him down to the bone. Bed. All of you. Ezra's voice was rough. Miss Whitmore will be here in the morning. The children filed out. Josie shot Clara one last look of pure venom. Samuel avoided her eyes. Only Emmy turned back at the door. Good night, Miss Whitmore. Then in a whisper she probably thought was quiet, I hope you stay longer than spring. And she was gone. Clara and Ezra stood alone in the lamplit room. "The boy's cough," Clara said carefully. "How long has he?" "Since last winter." Ezra's jaw was tight. "Doc Patterson says it's lung weakness, says he'll grow out of it." "There are treatments. My mother had something similar when I was young. Steam inhalations, certain herbs. I could— You a doctor now?" The words hit like a slap. Clara straightened. "No, just someone who might be able to help." Ezra rubbed his face with both hands. For just a second, he looked exhausted. Human. "Sorry. That was uncalled for." He showed her to a small room off the kitchen. Narrow bed, washstand, clean blankets. "Water's in the pitcher. Breakfast at dawn. Mr. Hartwell." He stopped at the door. "Thank you," Clara said, "for not sending me away." Something crossed his face. Pain, maybe. Or regret. "Don't thank me yet. Winter here is hard. You might be cursing me by February." His eyes went to the window toward the North Ridge. His jaw tightened. "And there's been trouble lately. Man named Brennan wants our water rights. He's been pushing hard." "Trouble? Nothing you need to worry about." But his voice said different. "Get some sleep, Miss Whitmore." He closed the door. Clara sank onto the bed, still in her traveling clothes. Through the thin walls, she heard Ezra moving through the house, banking fires, checking locks. The sounds of a man holding everything together by sheer will. And upstairs, a child crying. Muffled. Into a pillow. Then Josie's voice, sharp. "Stop it, Emmy. Crying won't bring her back." Clara pressed her fist to her mouth and didn't make a sound. Dawn came gray and brutal. Clara forced herself up, washed in ice-cold water, changed into brown wool. Governess clothes, practical, forgettable. Ezra was already in the kitchen pouring coffee that smelled burned. "Children are still sleeping," he said. "You cook. I can manage. Oats in the blue tin, molasses on the shelf." He grabbed his coat. "I'll be in the barn. Brennan's men were spotted near the creek yesterday. Need to check the fence line." He was gone before she could ask what that meant. Clara found the oats, got the stove going, figured out the rhythm of this unfamiliar kitchen. The porridge was bubbling when small footsteps came down the stairs. Emmy appeared first, still in her nightgown hair, a wild halo. She stopped dead when she saw Clara. "You're still here." "I told you I would be." Emmy's face did something complicated. Hope fighting with fear. Then Josie and Samuel came down, and the moment passed. Breakfast was quiet. Josie ate without looking up. Samuel stirred his porridge but didn't eat. "Chest hurts," he mumbled when Clara asked. "From the coughing." "I'll make a compress after we eat." "You ain't our mother." Josie's voice was acid. "You don't get to take care of us." "No," Clara agreed. "I'm your teacher. But teachers help when students don't feel well. It's what we do." Josie's eyes narrowed. But she didn't argue. After breakfast, Ezra took the girls for chores. Clara stayed with Samuel setting water to boil, finding cloths and dried chamomile in the pantry. "Does it hurt bad?" she asked. "Sometimes." Samuel watched her work. "How come you know about chest sickness?" "My mother had weak lungs." Clara poured hot water into a basin, added the herbs. "My grandmother used to make compresses like this." "Did your mother get better?" "She did. Lived another 20 years. Samuel was quiet. Then, "I don't want to die like Mama did." Clara's hands stopped moving. She turned, knelt beside his chair, looked him straight in the eye. "You're not going to die, Samuel. You have a cough, that's all." Promise. She shouldn't. She couldn't know. She wasn't a doctor, but his eyes were so scared. "I promise to do everything I can to help you," she said. "How's that?" He thought about it, then nodded. "Okay." The compress helped. By mid-morning, Samuel was breathing easier, dozing in the chair by the fire. Emmy sat at Clara's feet, holding up her broken doll. "Can you fix her?" Her arm came off. "I can try." Clara found a sewing kit in a basket by the hearth. She pulled out the needle, the thread, and stopped. The basket had initials carved into the lid. M.H. Maggie Hartwell, the dead wife. These had been her things. Emmy noticed her looking. "That was Mama's. She made dolls real good." Clara touched the carved letters. A woman she'd never meet had sat in this same spot, held this same needle, maybe hummed while she sewed. Now she was gone, and her children were motherless, and her husband was so locked up in grief he'd rejected a bride rather than risk feeling anything again. "Your mama made this doll." Emmy nodded. "Before she got sick. She said Maggie would keep me safe." Her lip trembled. "But she didn't keep Mama safe." Clara pulled the child close. Emmy burrowed against her, small and warm and desperate for touch. "Sometimes," Clara said carefully, "even the best magic can't stop bad things from happening. But that doesn't mean the love behind it wasn't real." Emmy looked up. "You talk pretty. Like the books Papa used to read us." "Used to." He stopped, after Mama went to heaven. Emmy's voice was small. "He don't do much of anything anymore. Just works and worries and looks sad." Clara filed that away. Then she picked up the doll and started stitching. An hour later, the doll was whole again. "There." Clara held it up. "Good as new." Emmy grabbed it, hugged it to her chest. "Thank you, Miss Whitmore. Thank you, thank you, thank you." "You're welcome, sweetheart." "I wish you were staying forever." Emmy's voice dropped to a whisper. "I wish you were going to be our real mama." The words hit Clara square in the chest. Before she could answer, the front door opened. Ezra came in, stamping snow from his boots, Josie trailing behind him with a basket of eggs. His eyes swept the room. Samuel sleeping peacefully. Emmy clutching her fixed doll. Clara with the sewing basket in her lap. He went very still when he saw the basket. "That was Maggie's," Josie said flatly. "She shouldn't be touching Mama's things." "I'm sorry." Clara set it down. "Emmy asked me to fix her doll. I didn't mean to." "It's fine." Ezra's voice was rough. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Maggie would have wanted someone using it. Josie made a sound of disgust and stomped toward the stairs. "Josephine." She stopped but didn't turn around. "Miss Whitmore helped your brother today. His cough is better. Maybe you could say thank you." Silence stretched. Clara saw Josie's shoulders shake, anger or tears, she couldn't tell. "Thank you," Josie said finally. The words came out like broken glass. Then she was gone. Footsteps pounding up to the loft. Ezra exhaled. "She'll come around." "Will she?" He looked at Clara then. Really looked. "You fixed Emmy's doll. You helped Samuel breathe. You didn't run screaming when Josie tried to bite your head off." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. "You might just survive this winter after all." High praise. "It's honest." He moved closer, lowered his voice. "Brennan's men cut our fence. North pasture. 3rd time this month." "Who is Brennan?" "Cornelius Brennan. Owns most of the land around here. Wants the rest." Ezra's jaw tightened. "Wants my water rights. Willow Creek runs through my property, only good water for 30 miles. He controls everything." "Can't you go to the sheriff?" "Sheriff's bought and paid for." Ezra's voice was bitter. "Brennan's got money, lawyers, friends in high places. I've got 3 kids and a ranch I can barely keep running." "What will you do?" "Same thing I've been doing. Fix the fences. Watch my back. Hope he gets tired before I do." He didn't sound hopeful. "Mr. Hartwell." "Ezra." The word came out rough. "You're living in my house, teaching my children. Call me Ezra." "Clara." She held out her hand without thinking. He looked at it for a long moment. Then he took it. His hand was rough, calloused, warm, despite the cold. He held on a beat too long. "Clara," he repeated, like he was trying out how it sounded. Something shifted between them. Small, barely there, a crack in the wall. Then Emmy's voice rang out. "Is it time for lessons?" The moment broke. Ezra stepped back. Clara let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "Get your sister," Ezra told Emmy. "Time to learn something." Teaching the Hartwell children was like trying to tame 3 different kinds of storm. Josie was a hurricane, brilliant and furious, answering every question with the minimum words possible, arms crossed, daring Clara to make her care. Samuel was quiet, Rain struggling with letters that seemed to flip and dance before his eyes, but numbers came to him like breathing. He could calculate feed prices in his head faster than Clara could with pencil and paper. Emmy was sunshine and thunder, desperate for attention, disrupting lessons with questions knocking over her slate, suddenly needing help with buttons just when Clara got the other 2 focused. "I can write my name," Emmy announced on the second day, holding up a slate that read MEY. "That's wonderful. But you've got 1 extra letter. Can you find it?" Emmy squinted. "The curvy one. Close. Watch." Clara guided her hand. EMMY. See? Like the flower Mama had those in her garden. Josie's head snapped up. "Don't talk about Mama's garden." "But," I said, "don't." Emmy's lip trembled. "It's all right to talk about your mother," Clara said gently. "The happy things and the sad things. That's how we keep people alive after they're gone." Josie stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. "You didn't know her. You don't get to talk about keeping her alive." "You're right. I didn't know her." "Then stop acting like you did." "I'm not acting like anything, Josephine. I'm trying to help." "We don't need your help." Josie's voice cracked. "We don't need you at all." She ran for the door. "Josie, wait." But she was gone, the door slamming behind her. Through the window, Clara watched her sprint toward the barn, red braid flying. Samuel coughed, short, sharp, his hand pressed to his chest. "Steam treatment," Clara said immediately. "Emmy, fill the kettle." The afternoon dissolved into the rhythm of care steam and herbs and warm blankets. Samuel fell asleep by the fire. Emmy curled at Clara's feet. "Miss Whitmore?" "Yes, Emmy." "Is Josie going to be mean forever?" Clara considered the question. "No, she's mean because she's scared. When people lose someone they love, they build walls so they won't get hurt again." "Are you going to break her wall?" "I'm going to try." Emmy was quiet for a moment. Then, "Good. She needs someone to break it. Papa tried, but his wall's too big. They just bump into each other." Out of the mouths of children. "Emmy, can I ask you something?" "Uh-huh." "What was your mother like?" Emmy's face scrunched in thought. "She smelled like bread and flowers. She sang while she cooked. She made Papa laugh." Her voice dropped. "He don't laugh anymore." "What else?" "She told stories at bedtime. Different voices for all the people. She let me help her in the garden, even when I killed the plants." Emmy hugged her doll tighter. "She said she'd never leave us. But she did." "She didn't want to leave." "I know, but she still did." Emmy looked up with eyes too old for 5. "That's the thing about people, Miss Whitmore. They leave even when they don't want to." Clara pulled her close and didn't have any words. That night Josie didn't come down for supper. "Let her be," Ezra said when Clara offered to bring food up. "She'll eat when she's hungry." But Clara heard him climb the stairs later, heard his low voice through the floorboards, heard Josie's sobs muffled but unmistakable, and then Ezra's voice rough and broken. "I know, Bug. I miss her too." Clara pressed her hand over her heart and ached for all of them. She couldn't sleep that night. The bed was too hard, the room too cold, her thoughts too loud. She kept seeing Emmy's face when she'd talked about her mother, Samuel's fear when he'd asked if he was going to die. Josie's rage that was really just grief turned inside out. And Ezra. His hands gripping the sewing basket. His voice cracking when he talked about his wife. They're drowning, Clara thought. All four of them. And they don't even know it. She got up, wrapped herself in a blanket, crept out to the kitchen. Maybe warm milk would help her sleep. Maybe... She stopped. Ezra sat at the kitchen table, a bottle of whiskey in front of him. He hadn't drunk any. The level was the same, but he was staring at it like it held answers. Couldn't sleep, Clara said quietly. He didn't look up. Join the club. She hesitated, then sat across from him. Want to talk about it? No. Okay. They sat in silence. The fire crackled. Wind moaned against the windows. She made that basket, Ezra said suddenly. The sewing basket. First year we were married. Said every home needed one. His voice was hollow. I can't look at anything in this house without seeing her. That must be hard. Hard. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Hard is the wrong word. Hard is breaking a horse. Hard is getting through winter with half your herd. This... He stopped, swallowed. This is something else. Clara waited. She died in my arms. The words came out flat. Dead. Middle of the night. Couldn't breathe. I held her and begged her to stay, and she just... He made a sound that wasn't quite a word. Last thing she said was, take care of our babies. Not, I love you. Not, goodbye. Just take care of them. She knew you loved her. She didn't need to hear it. Maybe. He finally looked at Clara. His eyes were red-rimmed. Maybe not. Guess I'll never know. You're doing what she asked, taking care of them. Am I? His laugh was bitter. Samuel's sick. Josie's angry at the world. Emmy asks every night if I'm going to leave like Mama did. I can barely keep this ranch running, and Brennan's circling like a vulture, and I... He stopped, breathed. I'm drowning, and I can't let them see it because they need me to be strong. Clara reached across the table, touched his hand. He flinched but didn't pull away. You don't have to drown alone, she said quietly. That's why I'm here, not to replace their mother, just to help carry the weight. Ezra stared at her hand on his. When he spoke, his voice was rough. You got rejected today. I tore up your future right in front of you. And you're sitting here trying to help me. What else am I going to do? Sit in my room and feel sorry for myself? Most people would. I'm not most people. Something flickered in his eyes. Not quite warmth, but not ice either. No, he said slowly. I'm starting to see that. They sat there until the fire burned low. Not talking, just being. Two broken people in a house full of grief, finding something that might, if they were lucky, become understanding. Finally, Ezra stood. You should sleep. Children wake early. So should you. I will. He paused at the stairs. Clara. She looked up. Thank you for what you did for Samuel today, and Emmy, and... He struggled. For being kind, even when you didn't have to be. That's what teachers do. No. His voice was quiet. That's what good people do. He disappeared up the stairs. Clara sat alone in the dying firelight, her hand still warm where it had touched his. 5 months. She was here for 5 months. But sitting in this kitchen, in this house full of wounded hearts, she wasn't thinking about spring anymore. She was thinking about Emmy's whispered wish. I hope you stay longer than spring. And the terrifying truth was, Clara was starting to hope the same thing. She pressed her hand against her belly, against the emptiness that had defined her for 2 years. Barren. Broken. That's what the doctors had called her. That's what Ezra's torn contract had confirmed. But here in this house with these children who needed her, with this man who was learning to let her in, she didn't feel barren at all. She felt like something was finally impossibly starting to grow, and that scared her more than anything else ever had. The days bled into each other like watercolors in the rain. Clara woke before dawn every morning, lit the kitchen fire, started the oats. By the time the children came down, the house was warm and breakfast was ready. It became routine. It became rhythm. It became something dangerously close to home. Josie still watched her with suspicious eyes. Still answered questions with the minimum words. Still flinched when Clara got too close. But she stopped running out of the room every time Clara mentioned feelings. Stopped slamming doors quite so hard. Progress. Slow as molasses in January. But progress. Samuel's cough improved with the steam treatments. Clara made him breathe over pots of boiling water 3 times a day, mixed with chamomile and dried eucalyptus she'd found in Maggie's herb cabinet. She made him drink bitter tea that he swallowed without complaint. She rubbed his chest with rendered tallow and peppermint before bed. "You're gonna turn me into a medicine bottle," Samuel said one morning, but he was smiling when he said it. "Would you rather cough all night?" "No, ma'am." "Then drink your tea and stop complaining?" He drank it. And that night, for the first time since Clara arrived, he slept straight through without a single coughing fit. Emmy was the easiest. She attached herself to Clara like a burr to a wool sock, following her everywhere, chattering constantly, demanding attention and affection with the desperate hunger of a child who'd lost her mother too young. "Miss Whitmore, can you braid my hair like Mama used to? Miss Whitmore, can you tell me a story? Miss Whitmore, can I help you cook?" Clara said yes to everything. Braided Emmy's wild curls every morning. Told stories every night. Let small hands help with biscuits even when it made twice the mess. "You're spoiling her," Josie said one afternoon, watching Emmy skip away with a cookie Clara had slipped her. "Am I? Mama never let her have sweets before supper." Clara met Josie's eyes. "What did your mama let her have?" Josie's jaw tightened. For a moment, Clara thought she'd push back, snap something cruel, storm off like usual. But instead, something in her face cracked. "Love," Josie said quietly. "Mama gave her love, all the time, even when Emmy was bad." "That's what I'm trying to give her too." Josie looked away. "It ain't the same." "No, it's not." Clara stepped closer. "I'm not trying to be your mother, Josephine. Nobody could be. But I can still care about Emmy, about Samuel, about you. I don't need you to care about me." "Maybe not, but I do anyway." Josie's lip trembled, just for a second. Then her walls slammed back up and she walked away. But she didn't run. And she didn't slam any doors. 2 weeks into December, Clara found her breakthrough with Josie. It came through words the way most important things did. "I want you each to write about someone you admire," Clara said during lessons. 1 page, your best handwriting. Samuel wrote about his father, how Ezra could calm a spooked horse with just his voice, how he never complained even when the work broke him, how he always checked on them at night, even when he thought they were sleeping. Emmy wrote about Clara. The letters were crooked, the spelling creative, but the meaning was clear. "Miss Whitmore is niece. She fixed my dole. She makes Samuel beat her. I admire her." Clara's throat went tight when she read it, but Josie sat frozen, slate blank. Pencil gripped so hard her knuckles were white. "Can't think of anyone?" Clara asked gently. "I can." Josie's voice was ice. "I just don't want to write about her." "Your mother." Josie's head snapped up. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't say her name like you knew her, like you have any right." Clara pulled a chair close, sat down, eye level. "You're right. I didn't know her, but I'd like to, if you want to tell me." "Why?" The word was sharp as a blade. "So you can pretend to understand. So you can say nice things that don't mean nothing. So I can understand you." Clara held Josie's gaze. "You're angry all the time. You push everyone away. You act like caring about someone is a crime. I want to know why." Josie's face crumbled for just a second before she rebuilt it. "You want to know why? Because she promised. She promised she'd never leave us. She promised she'd watch me grow up and teach me to make bread and be there when I got married, and—" Her voice broke. "She promised, and she lied." "She didn't lie, Josie. She got sick." "Same thing." Tears spilled down Josie's cheeks, but her voice stayed hard. "Dead is dead. Don't matter why." Clara reached out, slowly, giving Josie time to pull away. When she didn't, Clara took her hand. "Tell me about her. Not about her dying. About her living." Josie was quiet for so long, Clara thought she wouldn't answer. Then in a voice barely above a whisper, "She was beautiful. Everyone said so. Papa couldn't stop looking at her even after 10 years married." She sniffed. She knew every plant. Which ones healed and which ones killed. She could make bread that tasted like heaven. And she sang while she worked, all the time, even when things were hard. She sounds wonderful. She was perfect. Josie's voice cracked wide open. And then she got sick and the doctor came, but he didn't know nothing and she just got worse and worse. She couldn't breathe at the end. She kept trying to tell us something important, but she couldn't get enough air. And then one morning, she was just empty. Like her soul left, but her body didn't know it yet. Clara pulled Josie into her arms. The girl resisted for half a second, then collapsed against Clara's chest, sobbing in great heaving gasps that shook her whole body. "I miss her," Josie wailed. "I miss her so much. And it don't get better. It gets worse because every day there's something else she's missing. And every day I forget something else about her. I can't remember her voice anymore. I try to hear it in my head, and I can't." "Oh, sweetheart." Clara held her tighter. "I'm so sorry." They stayed like that for a long time, Josie crying while Clara rocked her, murmuring wordless comfort. Samuel and Emmy watched from across the room, eyes wide, uncertain. Finally, Josie's sobs quieted to hiccups. She pulled back, wiping her face with her sleeve. "Got your dress wet." "I don't care about the dress." Josie looked up at her eyes red-rimmed and searching. "Do you promise you won't try to make us forget her? Some folks said Papa should marry quick, so we'd forget and not be sad no more. But I don't want to forget." "I would never ask you to forget your mother," Clara said firmly. "She's part of you. Part of what makes you wonderful. You should remember her every single day. That's not sad, Josie. That's love." Something in Josie's face shifted, softened. For the first time since Clara arrived, the hostility was gone. "Can I still write about her for the assignment?" "I would love that." The page Josie produced was the most beautiful thing Clara had ever read. 3 pages instead of 1 in careful script describing Maggie Hartwell in such vivid detail that Clara felt she knew the woman. The way she hummed while kneading bread. The way she danced with Ezra in the kitchen when she thought the children were sleeping. The way she told stories with different voices, making Emmy giggle and Samuel groan and Josie roll her eyes but secretly love every minute. By the time Clara finished reading, tears were streaming down her own cheeks. "This is extraordinary," she said. "Your mother would be so proud of you." Josie smiled. Really smiled. Small and shy, but real. And Clara felt something shift in her chest. Something that felt like hope. That night, after the children were in bed, Clara found Ezra on the front porch. He stood staring out at the frozen valley shoulders, hunched against the cold, a cigarette burning forgotten between his fingers. "She wrote about her mother today," Clara said. "Josie. For a composition assignment. It was beautiful." Ezra didn't turn around. "She don't talk about Maggie much, not to me." "She's afraid it hurts you." "It does." His voice was rough. "But not like she thinks. It hurts because I'm failing them. Maggie would know what to say, what to do. She'd have Samuel healthy and Emmy not so clingy and Josie not so angry. I just make everything worse." "That's not true." "Ain't it?" He turned then, and his face was ravaged. "Look at them, Clara. Look at my children. They're broken. And I don't know how to fix them." "They're not broken. They're grieving. There's a difference. Is there? Clara stepped closer. Josie cried in my arms today. First time since her mother died, she said. She's starting to heal, Ezra. Samuel's breathing better. Emmy's learning her letters. They're not broken. They're growing. Ezra stared at her. The cigarette had burned down to his fingers, but he didn't seem to notice. Clara reached out, took it, dropped it in the snow. You're good with them, he said finally. Better than I expected. I love teaching. It's more than that. His eyes searched her face. You care about them, really care. I can see it. Of course I care about them. Most people wouldn't. Most people would just do the job, count the days till spring and leave. I'm not most people. No. His voice dropped. You're really not. They stood there in the cold breath misting between them. Clara's heart was beating too fast. They're getting attached to you, Ezra said quietly. I can see it. Emmy follows you everywhere. Samuel talks about you at supper. Even Josie is starting to soften. He paused. So am I. Clara's breath caught. Ezra, I know it don't change nothing. Come spring, you'll go back east. That's the deal. But his eyes said something different. His eyes said he wished things were different. What if I don't want to go back east? The words hung in the frozen air between them. Ezra went very still. What are you saying? I don't know. Clara wrapped her arms around herself. I just know that this house, these children, this life, it feels more real than anything I had in Boston. More like home than anywhere I've ever been. Clara. Her name came out rough. Don't say things you don't mean. I mean every word. He reached out, brushed snow from her shoulder. His hand lingered warm even through the cold. You're making this very hard, he said. Making what hard? Keeping my distance. His jaw tightened. Remembering you're temporary. Before Clara could respond, a sound split the night. Samuel's voice high and terrified. Papa, Papa, I can't breathe. They ran. Samuel was sitting up in bed, clutching his throat, his face turning red, then purple. Josie stood beside him, frozen in horror. Emmy was crying. Clara's training kicked in before fear could. Get him to the kitchen, she ordered. By the stove, now! Ezra scooped up his son and ran. Clara was right behind him, grabbing blankets and cloths as she passed. Josie, get water boiling, as much as you can. Emmy, bring me all the pillows from my room. Move. The girls scattered. Clara made a tent with blankets over Samuel and the steaming pot. She climbed under with him, holding him against her chest. Look at me. She gripped his face. Samuel, look at me. His eyes were wild with panic. He clawed at his throat, gasping. You're not dying. You hear me. You're not dying. I won't let you. Clara made her voice iron. Now breathe with me. In through your nose. Slow. Out through your mouth. Slower. She breathed loudly, exaggerated, forcing him to focus on her rhythm instead of his terror. In, out, in, out. His gasping hitched, stuttered, then slowly, agonizingly slowly began to match hers. That's it. That's my brave boy. Keep going. In, out, in, out. The purple faded from his face. Red replaced it, then pink. His breathing eased. The wheezing softened. Good. So good, Samuel. You're doing so good. Emmy appeared at the tent's edge, arms full of pillows, face streaked with tears. Is he dying? No. Clara's voice was firm. He's going to be fine. He just needs to breathe. They stayed under the steam tent for 20 minutes. Clara held, Samuel breathed with him, murmured encouragement, until the attack finally passed, and he slumped against her, exhausted but breathing normally. When they emerged, Ezra was white as a ghost. He's okay, The attack's over. Clara helped Samuel settle into a chair piled with pillows. He needs to rest, and we need to keep doing the steam treatments, maybe more often. Ezra crossed to his son, fell to his knees beside the chair. His hands were shaking as he touched Samuel's face. God, boy, you scared me half to death. Sorry, Papa. Samuel's voice was thin. Couldn't help it. I know. Ezra pulled him close, holding on like Samuel might disappear if he let go. Clara watched them, her own hands trembling now that the crisis had passed. Josie stood in the corner, silent tears running down her face. Emmy had attached herself to Clara's leg and wouldn't let go. He almost died, Josie whispered. Like Mama. But he didn't. Clara crouched down, pulled both girls close. He didn't die. And he's not going to. We're going to take care of him, all of us together. Promise? Emmy's voice was tiny. I promise. They kept Samuel downstairs the rest of the night, taking turns watching him, making sure he kept breathing. Ezra refused to sleep, sitting vigil beside his son's makeshift bed. Around 3 a.m, Clara brought him coffee. He took it without speaking, but when she turned to go, his hand caught hers. Thank you. His voice was wrecked. You saved his life. I just helped him breathe. You saved his life, Ezra repeated. I couldn't. I froze. Saw him turning purple and I froze, just like with Maggie. His grip tightened. But you didn't. You knew what to do. I was scared too. Didn't show it. Couldn't. Clara sat beside him. He needed me to be calm. So I was calm. Ezra looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. Whatever I did to deserve you showing up on that stage, he said quietly. I thank God for it every day. Clara's heart stopped, then started again twice as fast. Ezra. I know. He let go of her hand. I know. It don't change nothing. But I needed to say it. He turned back to Samuel, effectively ending the conversation. Get some sleep, Clara. I'll watch him. She didn't sleep. Couldn't. She lay in her narrow bed and stared at the ceiling, her hand still warm where he'd kissed it. What was happening to her? She'd come to Wyoming to find a practical marriage. Instead, she'd found something terrifying. Something that felt like a family. Something that felt like love. And in 3 months, she was supposed to leave it all behind. The thought made her chest ache in a way she couldn't explain. Christmas Eve came wrapped in fresh snow and old grief. Clara woke to silence, the kind of silence that meant someone was avoiding something. She found Ezra already gone out checking cattle. He'd said, though she suspected he was really just escaping the memories that December 24th held. Mama loved Christmas, Emmy announced at breakfast, pushing her porridge around her bowl. She made gingerbread with raisin buttons. We sang carols. Papa cut down a tree from up in the hills. We ain't doing that this year, Josie said flatly. Papa said. But why? Emmy's lip trembled. It ain't fair. Because Mama's not here. Samuel's voice was quiet. Nothing's the same. Clara looked at their small faces, so resigned, so sad. 3 children who'd already lost their mother, now losing Christmas too. Something in her refused to accept it. What if we made new traditions, she heard herself say. Not to replace the old ones, to honor them. 3 pairs of eyes fixed on her with desperate hope. Papa won't like it, Josie said, but there was a question in her voice. Let me talk to your father. Clara made her voice confident. In the meantime, Emmy, do you remember how your mama made the gingerbread? A little. She let me help sometimes. Then you can help me. We'll figure it out together. By the time Ezra returned, the kitchen smelled of ginger and molasses. 3 children sat at the table decorating misshapen cookies with precious sugar, their faces smeared with flour, actually smiling. Ezra stopped in the doorway. What's all this? Careful, neutral. But Clara caught the tension in his shoulders. Miss Whitmore is helping us make Christmas, Emmy announced. Like Mama used to. I hope that's all right, Clara said quietly. I thought we weren't celebrating. Flat. Final. Josie looked up then. Something in her face hardened with courage. You told us Mama wouldn't want us to be sad, but you never asked what we wanted. Ezra's jaw tightened. Josephine, I want to remember her happy. Josie's voice shook but didn't break. I want to do the things she loved, not forget them because it hurts. The silence stretched thin and painful. Samuel ducked his head. Emmy's eyes filled with tears. Clara held her breath. Finally, Ezra's shoulders sagged. All right, make your gingerbread. Sing your carols. He turned toward the door. But I got work to do. He left without looking back. He's mad, Emmy whispered. He's sad, Clara corrected gently. There's a difference. That evening after supper that Ezra barely touched Clara found him in the barn. Not working, just standing in an empty stall staring at nothing. The children need you, she said. Children need their mother. He didn't turn around. All I do is remind them she's gone. That's not true. Ain't it? He spun to face her. Every time they look at me, they see what they lost. Every time I try to be what she was, I fail. I can't make bread like her, can't sing like her, can't hold them and make everything better like she could. You don't have to be her Ezra, you just have to be their father. I don't know how. His voice cracked. I don't know how to do this without her. Clara moved closer. Then let me help. Why? The word was raw. Why do you keep helping? I rejected you. Tore up our contract in front of you. Told you that you weren't good enough. And you're still here making cookies with my children, teaching them to smile again, making me feel things I swore I'd never feel again. Why? Because I care about them. Is that all? Clara met his eyes. No. The word hung between them. Heavy. Dangerous. Ezra stepped closer. Clara, I care about you too. The confession came out before she could stop it. I tried not to. I know I'm supposed to leave in spring. I know you're still grieving your wife. I know I can't give you what she could. But I can't help it, Ezra. Somewhere between steam tents and gingerbread and watching your daughter cry in my arms, I started to feel like this is where I belong. Ezra's hands lifted to her face, rough palms against her cold cheeks. His eyes searched hers looking for something. Permission, maybe, or a reason to pull away. He didn't find one. I've been fighting this for weeks, he said roughly, telling myself you're temporary, telling myself not to get attached, telling myself it wouldn't be fair to you or the children or Maggie's memory. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. But I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of being alone even when I'm surrounded by people. And when I look at you, Clara, when I see how you are with my children, how brave you were when Samuel couldn't breathe, how kind you are even when you have every reason to be bitter, I don't want to fight anymore. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe temporary don't have to be permanent. He swallowed hard. I'm saying maybe come spring you don't have to leave. Ezra. I ain't proposing, not yet. We barely know each other. But his hands stayed on her face, gentle and warm. I'm just saying maybe we see where this goes. Maybe we stop pretending this is just business. And the children. They already love you. His voice caught. I see it every day. The way Emmy looks at you. The way Samuel breathes easier when you're in the room. Even Josie. He laughed broken and soft. You got through to Josie. Nobody's been able to do that since Maggie died. Clara leaned into his touch. I don't want to replace her. You couldn't if you tried. Maggie was... He stopped. Breathed. Maggie was my first love. My wife. The mother of my children. Nothing changes that. His eyes held hers. But she's gone, Clara. And I'm still here. My children are still here. And we need—" His voice roughened. "I need—" He kissed her, soft, tentative, a question more than a statement. Clara answered by kissing him back. They stood in the barn with hay under their feet, and horses breathing softly in nearby stalls, and something that had been building for weeks finally broke free. When they pulled apart, Ezra rested his forehead against hers. "That was either the best idea I ever had," he said, "or the worst. Which do you think?" "Ask me in spring," Clara smiled. "I intend to." They walked back to the house, hand in hand. And when they came through the door together, three children looked up with eyes full of hope. "Papa?" Emmy's voice was small. "Are you still mad?" Ezra crossed to her, knelt down, pulled her into his arms. "I was never mad, Hazelnut, just sad." He looked at Josie, and Samuel opened his arms wider. "Come here, all of you." They came. 4 Hartwells tangled together in the middle of the kitchen, holding on like they might never let go. And Clara stood by the door, watching, heart full to bursting, feeling like an intruder on something sacred. Then Emmy's hand reached out and grabbed hers. "You too, Miss Whitmore. You're part of us now." Clara looked at Ezra. He nodded, eyes bright. She let Emmy pull her into the tangle of arms and bodies and grief and love. Let herself be folded into something that felt like family. And for the first time since she'd gotten on that stage in Boston, Clara May Whitmore felt like she'd finally impossibly come home. Christmas morning broke clear and cold. Clara woke to the smell of coffee and something else, wood smoke with a hint of pine. She dressed quickly, emerged into the kitchen, and stopped dead. A tree stood in the corner of the front room. Small and scraggly, listing slightly to the left, but definitely a Christmas tree. Ezra stood beside it, looking almost sheepish. "Cut it this morning," he said gruffly. "Before dawn. Thought the children might want something to decorate." "Ezra." "Maggie would have wanted it. You were right about that." When the children came downstairs and saw the tree, Emmy screamed so loud, Clara feared for the windows. Samuel's face split into the first real grin she'd seen from him. Even Josie smiled quick and bright. They spent Christmas Day making decorations from whatever they could find. Paper chains, dried berry garlands, ribbons from Clara's hair. The tree was ugly and beautiful and absolutely perfect. Clara had nothing to give as presents. She'd arrived with barely more than the clothes on her back. So she gave them stories instead. Tales of Christmas in Boston, of ice skating, and carolers of the grand tree in the public garden. "It sounds magical," Emmy breathed. "It was," Clara admitted, "but different magic than this." "What magic is here?" Samuel asked. "It's just snow and cold." Clara looked around at the 3 children, at Ezra watching her with something like wonder at the humble house that had somehow become home. "The magic of people choosing to love each other even when it's hard," she said. "That's the strongest magic there is." Ezra's eyes met hers across the room. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. That night, after the children were asleep, Emmy sprawled across her new bed of blankets by the tree, refusing to sleep anywhere else. Ezra found Clara on the porch. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For giving them Christmas back." He moved to stand beside her. "For giving me Christmas back. Maggie would have wanted it." "Maybe." He was quiet for a moment. "But you made it happen." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. The cold was brutal, but Clara barely felt it. "I've been thinking," Ezra said finally, "about spring." Clara's heart clenched. "What about it?" "I don't want you to go." The words came out rough. "I know that's selfish. I know you deserve better than a broken-down rancher with 3 kids and a man trying to steal his land. But I don't want you to go, Clara. These past weeks watching you with the children, seeing them smile again, feeling like maybe I could smile again too." He turned to face her. I ain't good at this. Words were always Maggie's thing, but I need you to know. I don't want to go either. Ezra's breath caught. You mean it? I mean it. Clara took his hands. I came here expecting nothing. Less than nothing. I expected to survive the winter and slink back east with my tail between my legs. Instead, I found... She struggled for words. I found your children. I found you. I found a place where being barren doesn't mean being broken. You were never broken. I felt broken. For 2 years I felt like damaged goods, like something no one could want. Tears pricked her eyes. But here with you with them, I feel whole, for the first time in as long as I can remember. Ezra pulled her close. She pressed her face into his chest, breathing in the smell of wood smoke and pine, and something that was just him. Stay, he said into her hair. Stay and be their mother. Stay and be my wife. Not because you're trapped here, because you want to. I want to. Then it settled. She could hear the smile in his voice. Come spring, we make it official. Clara looked up at him. What about Brennan? The trouble you mentioned. Ezra's face hardened. Brennan's a problem for another day. Tonight is Christmas. And I'm standing here with a beautiful woman who just agreed to marry me. Brennan can go to hell. Such language. You'll get used to it. He kissed her forehead. Come inside. It's cold out here. They went in together, hand in hand. And as Clara settled into sleep that night, the sounds of this house wrapped around her like a blanket. The crackle of dying fires, the whisper of wind, the soft breathing of 3 children she'd somehow come to love. She thought about how strange life was. She'd traveled 1,800 miles to find a husband who didn't want her. Instead, she'd found a family that needed her, and that she decided was the best Christmas gift she'd ever received. But outside in the frozen dark beyond the ranch boundaries, Cornelius Brennan sat in his parlor and planned. He'd heard about the woman who'd come to stay with Ezra Hartwell. Heard she was standing beside him now, making him stronger instead of weaker. That wouldn't do. That wouldn't do at all. He poured himself another whiskey and smiled. Come spring, he'd make his move, and Ezra Hartwell would learn what happened to men who refused to sell. The peace lasted 3 weeks. Clara should have known it couldn't hold, should have known that happiness this fragile was bound to shatter. But she'd let herself believe, let herself dream that maybe, just maybe, they could have this. She was wrong. The riders appeared on a Tuesday morning just as Clara was finishing breakfast dishes. Ezra spotted them first from the window, and his whole body went rigid. Get the children upstairs, he said quietly. Now. What is it? Brennan. He reached for the rifle above the fireplace. Stay inside. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Ezra? Clara. His voice was sharp. Please. She gathered the children and ushered them up the stairs, Emmy clinging to her skirt. Samuel's face pale, Josie's jaw set hard. What's happening? Josie demanded. Who's out there? Some men your father needs to talk to. Stay up here until I come get you. But... Josephine! Clara made her voice iron. Stay. Here. She crept back downstairs, pressed herself against the wall near the window, where she could see but not be seen. 4 riders had stopped 20 feet from the porch. The man in front was massive, thick beard, cold eyes, dressed in a suit too expensive for a working rancher. Cornelius Brennan. Had to be. Ezra stood on the porch, rifle in his hands, not pointing, but not hidden either. Hartwell. Brennan's voice carried across the frozen yard. We need to talk. Nothing to talk about. The creek says different. Brennan didn't dismount. Power move, Clara thought. Staying above Ezra, making him look up. My lawyer's been going through the old surveys. Turns out your boundaries ain't quite where you think they are. My boundaries are exactly where my deed says they are. Deeds can be wrong. Brennan smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. Surveys can be misread. These things happen. They don't happen. They get made to happen. Ezra's grip tightened on the rifle. by men with money and lawyers and no conscience. Careful, Hartwell. That sounds like an accusation. It's an observation. Brennan's smile disappeared. Let me make this simple. I'm offering fair price for your land. More than fair. You take it, you and those kids can live comfortable in town. No more breaking your back out here wondering if you'll survive the next winter. And if I don't take it, then things get complicated. Brennan leaned forward in his saddle. Legal battles are expensive. Take years sometimes. You got money for lawyers, Hartwell, with 3 kids to feed and a ranch barely keeping its head above water. Clara's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to march out there, tell this man exactly what she thought of him and his threats, but she'd promised Ezra she'd stay inside. Get off my land, Ezra said quietly. Think about it. That's all I'm asking. I said get off my land. Before I make you. Brennan's men shifted hands, moving toward their weapons. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. And then Clara did something stupid. She walked out onto the porch. Mr. Brennan. Her voice rang clear across the yard, every ounce of Boston breeding in every syllable. Good morning. All eyes turned to her. Ezra's expression was thunderous. Clara, get inside. But she moved to stand beside him, hands folded calmly, every inch the proper lady. I don't believe we've been introduced. I'm Mrs. Hartwell. The lie came smooth, necessary. She saw Ezra's sharp intake of breath, but he didn't contradict her. Brennan's eyes narrowed. Heard Hartwell was getting married. Mail order bride, wasn't it? I came from Boston to marry Mr. Hartwell, yes. We wed just after Christmas. Clara let her voice drip with aristocratic disdain. I'm afraid I don't understand this talk of selling. My husband hasn't mentioned any such plans to me. Your husband's in over his head, ma'am. Ranch is failing. How interesting, because the ledgers I've reviewed suggest otherwise. She had no idea what the ledgers said. Didn't matter. The ranch is running quite profitably. Excellent year with the calves prices strong at market. You don't understand ranching, Mrs. Hartwell. I understand numbers, and I understand bullies. Clara stepped forward. You want this land because it's valuable, not because Mr. Hartwell is struggling. The creek is the best water for miles. Control the water, control the valley. That's not charity you're offering, Mr. Brennan. That's theft dressed up as kindness. Brennan's face darkened. Careful, ma'am. That's a serious accusation. It's an accurate one. Clara didn't flinch. Now I believe my husband asked you to leave. I suggest you do so before I'm forced to note your trespassing in my correspondence with certain officials in Washington. My father had many connections in territorial affairs. I'm certain they'd be most interested in local land disputes. Complete bluff. Her father had been a schoolteacher who died owing money, but she delivered it with such confidence that Brennan actually hesitated. This isn't over, he finally said, yanking his horse's reins. I'm certain it's not. Clara smiled pleasantly. Good day, Mr. Brennan. They watched the riders leave, dust rising behind them. The moment they were out of sight, Ezra grabbed her arm. What the hell was that? That was me protecting what's ours. That was you putting yourself in danger. You think Brennan's just gonna accept being embarrassed by a woman? You think he'll let that stand? At least now he knows you're not alone. Clara pulled free of his grip. He thinks you're weak, Ezra. Vulnerable. He saw a widow with 3 kids and thought he could bully you into selling. Now he knows different. He knows I've got a wife with more courage than sense. That too. Despite everything, Ezra's mouth twitched. Mrs. Hartwell. It seemed appropriate in the moment. We ain't married yet. Details. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, without warning, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her. Hard. Fierce. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. You're going to be the death of me, Clara Whitmore. Hartwell, she corrected. If we're keeping up the pretense. Lord help me. But he was almost smiling. Get inside. I need to check the fences. Brennan's men have been cutting them again. Be careful. Always am. He wasn't back by supper. Clara tried not to worry, tried to keep the children calm, keep the routine normal. But as the sun set and the temperature dropped and still no sign of Ezra, her fear grew teeth. "Where's Papa?" Emmy asked for the 5th time. "Checking fences. He'll be home soon." "But it's dark." "He knows his way." But Josie's eyes met Clara's across the table, and they both knew something was wrong. At 8 o'clock, Clara made a decision. "Josie, I need you to watch your brother and sister. Can you do that?" "Where are you going?" "To find your father." "No." Josie stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "You can't go out there alone. It's dark and cold, and what if Brennan's men—" "I'll be fine." "You don't even know where to look." "Then tell me, where would he go to check fences?" Josie hesitated. "Then North Pasture, by the creek. That's where Brennan keeps cutting." Clara grabbed her coat, Ezra's spare rifle. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or your father. Understand?" "Clara." "I'll bring him home, Josie. I promise." The cold hit her like a wall. Clara had thought she understood Wyoming winter after 2 months, but this was different. Night cold. Kill you cold. The kind that froze your eyelashes and made your lungs burn. She followed the path Josie had described, rifle clutched in hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The moon was bright enough to see by, which was the only blessing. Please, she prayed to a God she wasn't sure she believed in anymore. Please let him be okay. She found him a mile from the house. He was on the ground, his horse standing nearby, loyal creature, refusing to leave. Even in the moonlight, Clara could see the dark stains spreading across the snow beneath him. "Ezra?" She dropped to her knees beside him. "Ezra, can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open. "Clara, what you shouldn't be here." "Shut up." Her hands searched for the wound, found it his side just above the hip. Bullet wound. "What happened?" "Brennan's men jumped me at the creek." He coughed and Clara saw blood on his lips. "3 of them. Shot me and left me for dead." "You're not dead." "Not yet. Not ever." Clara's voice cracked. "I am not losing you, Ezra Hartwell. Not after everything. Not when we're so close." She stripped off her coat, pressed it against his wound. He groaned. "Sorry. I know it hurts, but I have to stop the bleeding." "Clara." His hand found hers. Weak, cold. "If I don't make it—" "Stop." "The children. Take care of them. Promise me." "You're going to take care of them yourself." "Promise me." Tears froze on Clara's cheeks. "I promise. But you're not dying tonight. I won't allow it." Getting him onto the horse was agony. Clara wasn't strong enough to lift him, so she had to coax and push and beg until Ezra managed to drag himself into the saddle. He slumped forward, barely conscious, and Clara had to walk beside the horse, holding him steady all the way back to the house. The longest mile of her life. Josie had the door open before they reached the porch. Her face went white when she saw her father. "Papa!" "He's alive. Help me get him inside." Somehow they managed. Ezra collapsed onto the kitchen table, and Clara went to work calling on every bit of medical knowledge she'd ever absorbed. "Josie, get water boiling." "Samuel, I need clean cloths, tear up sheets if you have to. Emmy, stay out of the way and pray." The bullet was still in him. Clara could feel it when she probed the wound, and Ezra screamed through gritted teeth. "I have to get it out," she said as much to herself as to him. "If it stays in, you'll get infected and die." "Do it." His voice was raw. "Whatever you have to do." Clara found a knife, held it over the fire until it glowed, poured whiskey over her hands over the wound over the blade. "Josie, hold him down. Samuel, give him something to bite on." "Clara?" Ezra's eyes found hers. I trust you. Then trust me to save your life. She cut into him. Ezra screamed, bit down on the leather strap Samuel had found. His body arched off the table, but Josie held him stronger than a girl her age should have to be. Clara worked fast, found the bullet lodged against his hip bone, gripped it with Maggie's sewing tweezers. Pulled. It came free with a sound that would haunt her dreams. Got it. Her voice shook. Josie the hot iron. She cauterized the wound while Ezra screamed again, then passed out cold. Is he dead? Emmy's voice tiny and terrified from the corner. Clara pressed her fingers to his throat. Found a pulse. Weak, but there. No, sweetheart. He's sleeping. His body needs rest to heal. Will he wake up? Clara looked at Ezra's pale face, the blood soaking through already the fever she knew would come. I don't know, she admitted. But I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he does. The next 3 days were hell. Ezra developed a fever just as Clara had feared. He burned and thrashed and called out for Maggie, and all Clara could do was keep him cool, keep the wound clean, keep praying. The children took shifts sitting with him. Josie read aloud from her mother's Bible, her voice steady, even when her hands shook. Samuel held his father's hand and talked about nothing about the horses, the weather, anything to fill the silence. Emmy sang the songs Maggie used to sing off-key and beautiful. On the third night, the fever broke. Clara was dozing in the chair beside his bed when she felt his hand move in hers. Clara? She jerked awake. Ezra. Oh, thank God. His eyes were clear. Weak, but clear. What happened? You were shot. Left to die. I found you, brought you home, dug the bullet out of your hip. Clara's voice broke. You've been delirious for 3 days. I thought I was going to lose you. You saved my life. I did what anyone would do. No. His grip tightened. You did what you do. You fight. You never give up. He pulled her closer. I heard you, you know. During the fever. Heard you talking to me, telling me to stay, telling me the children needed me. He paused. Telling me you loved me. Clara's face heated. You heard that. Every word. He managed a weak smile. Did you mean it? Every word. Good. His eyes drifted closed. Because I love you too. And as soon as I can stand up, I'm going to make you my wife properly. No more pretending. Clara kissed his forehead. Rest now. We have time. Brennan. Can wait. You need to heal. He's going to come back. Stronger. Then we'll be ready. Clara's voice hardened. I didn't drag you a mile through the snow just to let that man take everything you've built. We'll find a way to fight him. We. This is my family now. My fight too. Ezra's eyes opened again. Something in them shifted gratitude, wonder, love. What did I ever do to deserve you? Ask me again when you're well. She smoothed his hair back. Sleep now. I'll be here when you wake up. He slept. And Clara sat beside him, holding his hand, already planning their next move. A week later, Ezra was well enough to sit up. 2 weeks later, he could walk with a cane. 3 weeks later, he was back to cursing at the cattle and pretending he didn't need help. But the wound had changed things, made them all realize how fragile their happiness was, how quickly it could be taken away. Clara started searching the house. What are you looking for? Josie asked, watching Clara rifle through boxes in the attic. Something that might help us fight Brennan. Legal documents, survey maps, anything that proves your father's claim to the land. Papa has the deed downstairs. I know, but Brennan's lawyers will challenge it. We need more. They searched for days, found nothing but old clothes and children's drawings and a trunk full of Maggie's things that Clara touched with careful reverence. Then on the 4th day, Josie found it. Clara! Her voice rang through the house. Come quick! Clara ran to the bedroom. Ezra and Maggie's old room still untouched, still full of ghosts. Josie stood by the window holding a leather folder. It was behind the dresser, must have fallen years ago. Clara took the folder, opened it, and felt her heart stop. Inside was a copy of the original land survey from 1867, careful, detailed, notarized. And pinned to it, a note in faded handwriting, important. Filed with Territorial Office Helena. Copy made 1881 when E worried about fire. Keep safe. M. Maggie. Maggie had made a copy of the survey and hidden it away, protected them even from beyond the grave. This is it, Clara breathed. This is proof. If we can verify this against the original in Helena. Brennan's claim falls apart, Josie finished. He can't say the boundaries are wrong if we have the survey that established them. Clara clutched the folder to her chest. I have to go to Helena. What? This needs to be verified, certified. I have to take it to the Territorial Land Office before Brennan's hearing. That's a week's ride in good weather. Josie's face went pale. In winter, it's suicide. Your father can't travel. Someone has to go. Clara met her eyes. Unless you have a better idea. Josie was quiet for a long moment. Then, take the bay mare. She's the steadiest in snow. And pack extra blankets, nights are deadly cold. And, Josie, bring it back. Whatever happens, bring that document back. Her voice cracked. And bring yourself back too. We need you. Clara pulled her into a hug. I'm coming back. I swear it. Telling Ezra was harder. No. His voice left no room for argument. Absolutely not. Someone has to go. Then I'll go. You can barely walk. You'd die before you made it halfway. Then we'll send word to someone. A messenger. Who? Everyone in town is either scared of Brennan or bought by him. Clara gripped his hands. I can do this, Ezra. I traveled 1,800 miles alone to get here. I can make it to Helena and back. That was trains and stages, not mountain passes in February. I'm stronger than I look. I know how strong you are. His voice broke. That's not the point. If something happens to you, if you die out there alone, then you go on. You take care of the children. You keep fighting. Clara touched his face. But I'm not planning to die. I'm planning to save this ranch and come home to marry you properly. Ezra pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. I can't lose you. I've already lost. You won't lose me, I promise. You can't promise that. I can promise to do everything in my power to come back. She pulled back, met his eyes. Do you trust me? A long pause. Then, yes. God help me, I do. Then let me do this. Let me fight for us. The morning she left was bitter cold. The children gathered on the porch, bundled against the wind, faces tight with fear. Clara hugged each one. Emmy clung and cried. Don't go. Please don't go. I have to, sweetheart. But I'll be back before you know it. 2 weeks. That's forever. I know, but you'll be busy. Lessons to keep up with, chores to do, your papa to take care of. She kissed Emmy's forehead. Be brave for me. Samuel tried to look strong, but his lip trembled. What if your cough comes back while you're gone? Then you do the steam treatments like I taught you, and you ask Josie to help. Promise you'll come back. I promise. Josie didn't cry. She stood straight and fierce, chin lifted so much, like her mother must have been. I'll take care of them, she said. And Papa, don't worry about anything here. I know you will. Clara squeezed her hands. You're the bravest girl I know, Josephine Hartwell. Your mama would be so proud. Josie's composure cracked just for a second. Come back to us. I will. Ezra walked her to the horse, leaning on his cane, face gray with pain and fear. You've got the documents. Safe in my bag. Money. All we could spare. The route. Josie drew me a map. I know the way. He pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. You come back to me, he said hoarsely. You hear me? Whatever happens, you come back. I will. I love you, Clara. I should have said it sooner, should have said it more. But I love you. I love you too. She kissed him, tasting salt. His tears or hers, she couldn't tell. I'm coming back. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. She mounted the mare, looked back one last time at the family she'd found by accident and claimed by choice. Then she turned toward the mountains and rode. The journey to Helena was every nightmare Clara had ever had made real. 3 days in a blizzard hit. Clara huddled against the mare in a shallow cave, teeth chattering so hard she thought they might crack watching the snow pile up and wondering if she'd made the worst mistake of her life. The documents were tucked inside her coat against her skin, the only warm thing about her. She thought about Emmy crying on the porch, about Samuel's trembling lip, about Josie trying so hard to be brave, about Ezra's face when he'd said he loved her. She couldn't die here. She refused. The blizzard lasted 2 days. When it finally broke, Clara dug herself out and kept moving. On the 6th day, her horse went lame. Clara walked the last 20 miles into Helena, leading the mare. Her boots soaked through her feet numb. Her lips cracked and bleeding from the cold. Every step was agony. Every breath burned. But she made it. The Territorial Land Office was a squat stone building in the center of town. Clara pushed through the door looking like something dragged through hell and feeling worse. Ma'am? The clerk behind the desk stared at her with wide eyes. Are you all right? I need to verify a document. Her voice came out rough, scraped raw by cold and exhaustion. A land survey from 1867, Hartwell property in Sweetwater Valley. Ma'am, perhaps you should sit down. I'll sit down when my business is done. Clara pulled the folder from inside her coat, set it on the desk with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. This is a copy made in 1881. I need to verify it against the original filing and get it certified. The clerk looked at the document, then at Clara, then back at the document. This could take days, he said. The archives are... Then we start now. Something in her voice must have convinced him. He led her to a back room filled with filing cabinets that looked like they'd been organized by a drunk during an earthquake. The 1867 files should be somewhere in here, he said doubtfully. But finding a specific survey... Tell me where to look. Clara rolled up her sleeves. I didn't walk 20 miles through the snow to give up now. They searched for 3 days. Clara refused to leave sleeping on the floor of the archive room, eating only what the clerk brought her. Her fingers cracked and bled from handling old paper. Her eyes ached from reading faded ink by lamplight. On the 3rd day, she found it. The original survey filed exactly where Maggie's note had said it would be. Every line matching the copy, every boundary clear. Proof positive that the Hartwell claim was legitimate, that Willow Creek belonged to them, that Brennan's challenge was built on lies. Clara clutched the document to her chest and wept. Getting it certified took another 2 days and cost nearly half their money. But when Clara finally left Helena, she carried official copies bearing the territorial seal documents that would stand up in any court against any lawyer, no matter how expensive. She'd done it. Now she just had to get home. The return journey was faster. The weather held, and Clara pushed herself harder than she should have writing until her body screamed for rest, then writing some more. She thought about her family waiting for her, thought about what she'd say to Ezra when she saw him, thought about the look on Brennan's face when his lawyers saw those documents. She was 2 days from home when disaster struck. The mountain pass was narrow, the trail icy. Clara was focused on the path ahead when she heard a rumbling sound that started low and built to a roar. Avalanche. The snow hit before she could react. It swept her off the horse, tumbling her down the mountainside in a chaos of white and cold and terror. She lost the reins, lost her bearings, lost everything except the desperate knowledge that she had to protect the documents. She curled around the folder, shielding it with her body as the avalanche carried her down, down, down. When the world finally stopped moving, Clara was buried. Not deep. She could see light filtering through the snow above her. But she couldn't move her legs, something was pinning them. Her horse was gone, probably dead. Her supplies were scattered somewhere up the mountain, and she was alone. Clara screamed for help until her voice gave out, dug at the snow with her bare hands until her fingers were bloody and numb, tried to pull herself free and felt something in her ankle give way with a sickening crack. She was going to die here. The thought was almost peaceful. At least she'd tried. At least she'd gotten the documents. Maybe someone would find her body, find the folder, get it to Ezra somehow. Maybe the children would understand why she hadn't come back. She closed her eyes. The cold wasn't so bad anymore. That was a bad sign, she knew. That meant her body was giving up. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I tried. I'm so sorry." And then she heard it, hoofbeats, voices, someone calling her name. Clara tried to shout, but nothing came out except a weak croak. She waved one arm, the only part of her she could move, praying someone would see. "Over here." A voice she didn't recognize. "I see something." Then hands were digging, pulling away snow, revealing her face. A man she'd never met stared down at her with shocked eyes. "Good Lord, ma'am, you're alive." "Documents," Clara gasped. "In my coat. Don't lose them." "Don't worry about that now. Promise me." She grabbed his coat with what little strength she had left. "Whatever happens to me, get those documents to Ezra Hartwell, Sweetwater Valley. Promise me." The man's eyes went wide with understanding. "You're the mail-order bride, the one who stood up to Brennan. Promise me." "I promise." He turned to someone behind him. "Get her out. Careful, her leg looks bad, and for God's sake don't lose whatever's in her coat." Clara let herself fade then, knowing she'd done everything she could. She woke in a bed she didn't recognize with a face hovering over her that she'd never seen. "Welcome back." An older woman with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair. "You've been unconscious for 2 days, fever from the cold. Your ankle's broken and you've got frostbite on 3 fingers, but you're going to live." "Where?" "Miller's Ranch, 20 miles from Sweetwater. My husband found you on the pass." The woman pressed a cup of water to Clara's lips. "You're lucky to be alive." "The documents. Safe. My husband's got them locked up tight." The woman smiled. "He's one of the ranchers Brennan's been pushing around for years. When he realized who you were, what you were carrying, well, let's just say you've got friends you didn't know about." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I have to get home. My family." "Your family knows you're alive. My husband sent word as soon as we found you." The woman patted her hand. "A man showed up yesterday. Rode through the night when he heard. He's been sitting by your bed ever since, refusing to sleep." Clara turned her head, and there was Ezra slumped in a chair, dark circles under his eyes, looking like he'd aged 10 years. "Ezra!" His eyes flew open. "Clara! Oh, thank God! Clara!" He was at her side in an instant, gathering her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. "I thought I lost you," he choked out. "When you didn't come back when we heard about the avalanche, I thought, I'm here." Clara pressed her face into his neck. "I'm here. I came back just like I promised. You nearly died. But I didn't. And I got the documents." She pulled back to look at him. "Ezra, I got them. Certified copies from the territorial office. Brennan can't touch us now." Something in Ezra's face shifted. Relief and love and fierce burning pride. "You incredible woman." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "You impossible, incredible woman. I don't deserve you. Probably not. Clara managed a weak smile. But you're stuck with me now. It took another week before Clara could travel. A week of Ezra hovering over her, bringing her food, reading to her from Maggie's Bible, telling her stories about the children. Emmy had cried for 3 days straight when Clara didn't come back on time. Samuel had taken over the steam treatments himself, determined to prove he could manage. And Josie prayed, Ezra said quietly. First time since her mother died. Got down on her knees every night and asked God to bring you home. Clara's throat closed up. She did? She loves you. Ezra's voice was rough. They all do. I'll calm. And so do I. I love you too. Clara reached for his hand. All of you. So much it scares me sometimes. Good scared or bad scared? Good scared, the kind that means I have something worth losing. They made it home on a Thursday afternoon in late February. Clara saw the ranch from a mile away. The buildings intact, smoke rising from the chimney horses in the paddock. Everything exactly as she'd left it, yet somehow different. More precious now, more real. The children must have been watching for them because they exploded out of the house before the wagon had fully stopped. Emmy hit Clara first, climbing into the wagon bed and throwing her arms around Clara's neck with a force that nearly knocked her over. You came back. You came back, I knew you would. I told Josie you would. Of course I came back. Clara held her tight. I promised, didn't I? Samuel was next, trying to be dignified but failing, burying his face against Clara's shoulder and holding on for dear life. I kept doing the steam treatments, he mumbled. Every day, just like you taught me. Good boy. I'm so proud of you. And then Josie. Standing apart, arms wrapped around herself, face wet with tears, she was clearly furious about shedding. Clara held out her hand. Come here. Josie shook her head. I can't. If I... Her voice broke. If I hug you, I'll fall apart. Then fall apart. Clara's own eyes were streaming now. I'll catch you. Josie crossed the distance in 3 steps and collapsed into Clara's arms, sobbing like the child she still was, all her walls finally crumbling. I thought you were dead. Josie wept. I thought you were dead and I never told you. I never said... I know. Clara stroked her hair. I know, sweetheart. I love you too. Don't leave again. Please. Don't ever leave again. I won't. I'm home now, for good. They made their way inside, all 5 of them, tangled together, laughing and crying and talking over each other. Clara's broken ankle throbbed with every step, but she barely felt it. She was home. She was finally, truly home. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. On the 4th day, Cornelius Brennan made his move. Clara woke to the smell of smoke. She sat up in bed, heart pounding, and saw the orange glow through the window. The barn was on fire. Ezra! She shook him awake. The barn fire. Ezra was up and moving before his eyes were fully open. He grabbed his rifle. His boots ran for the door. Stay with the children. Don't come outside. Clara ignored him. She pulled on her coat over her nightgown, grabbed the children from their beds, herded them to the kitchen. What's happening? Samuel's voice was high with fear. Why is there fire? I don't know. Clara peered through the window. The barn was fully engulfed now, flames shooting into the sky. She could hear the horses screaming. Stay here. Don't move. Clara? Josie grabbed her arm. Don't go out there, please. I have to help your father. He told you to stay inside. And since when do I do what I'm told? She ran out into chaos. Ezra was trying to get the barn doors open, trying to save the horses, but the heat was too intense. 2 men on horseback watched from a distance. Brennan's men, Clara was sure of it. Ezra, stop. She grabbed him, pulled him back just as part of the roof collapsed. You'll die in there. The horses are gone, but your children aren't. They need their father. Clara's voice cracked. I need you. Please. Ezra stared at the burning barn face, twisted with anguish. Then he let her pull him away. That's when they saw the house. Smoke was pouring from the kitchen windows. Someone had set a second fire, probably while Clara was distracted by the barn. The children were still inside. No. Clara's blood turned to ice. No, no, no. She ran. The kitchen was already filling with smoke when she burst through the door. Emmy was screaming. Samuel was coughing those terrible wet coughs that meant his lungs were struggling. Josie was trying to drag them both toward the front of the house. This way. Clara grabbed Emmy, pulled Samuel against her side. Out the front. Move. They stumbled through the smoke, Clara guiding them. By feel more than sight. Her eyes streaming, her lungs burning. Behind them, the fire was spreading, eating through the walls that Ezra's father had built, the home where Maggie had raised her babies, the kitchen where Clara had learned to make biscuits and dress wounds and love 3 broken children. They made it outside just as the back half of the house collapsed. Ezra was there catching Emmy as Clara thrust her forward, pulling Samuel into his arms. They ran, all of them, toward the creek, the only safe place left. Clara looked back once, saw the house she'd come to love devoured by flames, saw everything they'd built reduced to ash. Brennan, Ezra said, his voice dead. This is Brennan's doing. We don't know that. But Clara did know it. They all knew it. He'll claim it was an accident. Say we left a lantern burning. His lawyers will make it go away. Ezra's hands clenched into fists. I'm going to kill him. No! Clara grabbed his arm. That's what he wants. He wants you to do something stupid so he can take everything legally. She made him look at her. We have the documents, Ezra. We have proof his claim is false. We take this to court. We expose what he did. We win. We have nothing. Ezra's voice broke. Look at us. Look at my children. We've lost everything. Clara knelt in the snow, pulled the children close. Emmy was sobbing. Samuel was wheezing. Even Josie's fierce composure had crumbled. We haven't lost everything, Clara said. We have each other. We have the land. We have the truth. She looked up at Ezra. And we have a choice. We can give up, let Brennan win, walk away with nothing. Or we can fight, like we've been fighting since the day I got here. With what? Ezra gestured at the burning ruins. We have no house, no barn, no supplies. Winter isn't over. We can't survive out here with nothing. Then we rebuild. We find help. We make Brennan pay for what he's done. How? Clara thought about the woman who'd nursed her back to health, about her husband who'd risked his own safety to carry those documents, about all the ranchers Brennan had pushed around for years. We're not the only people Brennan has hurt, she said slowly. We're just the first ones to fight back. What if we weren't alone anymore? What if everyone he's threatened stood together? Ezra stared at her. You think people would do that after years of being scared? I think people are tired of being scared. Clara stood wincing at the pain in her ankle. I think they've been waiting for someone to show them it's possible to stand up. We did that, Ezra. We got those documents. We proved his claim was false. Word's going to spread. And in the meantime, we can't camp in the snow for months. No. Clara took a deep breath. But I know someone who might help. Mrs. Miller, the woman who nursed me. She said her husband had been waiting years for someone to challenge Brennan. I say we take her up on the offer. They walked to the Miller ranch that night, carrying nothing but the clothes on their backs and the documents Clara had nearly died for. The children were exhausted, traumatized, cold. Ezra looked like a man watching his whole world burn. But they walked, together, as a family. The Millers took them in without hesitation. Knew this day was coming, old Tom Miller said, pouring whiskey for Ezra with a steady hand. Brennan's been getting bolder, pushing harder. Was only a matter of time before he went too far. He burned my house, Ezra said flatly. Nearly killed my children. And you've got proof he's been lying about the land boundaries. That's more than anyone else has managed. Tom leaned forward. Word's already spreading about what happened. About the mail-order bride who walked 20 miles through a blizzard to get documents from Helena. About the family that wouldn't back down. Word won't rebuild my house. No, but it might give you something better. Tom's eyes gleamed. There's a hearing scheduled for next week. Brennan's lawyers pushed for it thinking you'd be too broken to fight. But if you show up with those certified documents, if you tell your story in open court, everyone will hear it, Clara finished. Everyone will know what Brennan did. And maybe, just maybe, they'll stop being afraid to stand up too. The children were asleep in the Millers' spare room. Clara sat by the fire, too wired to rest her mind racing through possibilities. Ezra lowered himself into the chair beside her. He looked older in the firelight. Tired, beaten. "Do you think we can win?" he asked quietly. "I don't know." Clara took his hand. "But I know we have to try. For the children. For ourselves. For everyone Brennan has ever threatened." She paused. "For Maggie." Ezra's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "She saved those documents. Years ago, before she got sick, she made copies and hid them away. She protected your family, even knowing she might not be there to see it matter." Clara squeezed his hand. "We owe it to her to finish what she started." Ezra was silent for a long time. Then, "She would have liked you." "I hope so." "She would have." He pulled Clara closer. "She would have seen the same thing I see. Someone who doesn't give up. Someone who fights for what she loves." His voice roughened. "Someone who makes broken things whole again." "I haven't made anything whole. Your house is gone. Your barn is gone. Everything you built—" "Buildings," Ezra cut her off. "Wood and nails and glass. Things I can rebuild with my own two hands." He cupped her face. "What you gave us can't be burned. What you gave my children, hope, love, the knowledge that they matter, Brennan can't touch that. No one can." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what's going to happen at that hearing." "Neither do I. But I know one thing." He kissed her forehead gently. "Whatever happens, we face it together. You, me, and those 3 miracles sleeping in the next room." "Together," Clara agreed. "Always." They sat by the fire until dawn, planning their next move, talking through every possibility. The fear was still there. How could it not be? But underneath it was something stronger. Hope, determination, love. And for the first time since watching her house burn, Clara allowed herself to believe they might actually win. The hearing was in 6 days. 6 days to prepare their case. 6 days to gather allies. 6 days to turn their tragedy into triumph. Clara didn't intend to waste a single moment. The 6 days before the hearing passed in a blur of preparation and unexpected hope. Word spread faster than Clara had imagined. By the 2nd day, 3 neighboring ranchers had arrived at the Miller place offering help. By the 4th day, there were 12. Men who'd been afraid of Brennan for years, who'd watched him bully and threaten and steal, who'd kept their heads down because fighting back seemed impossible. Now they saw a different possibility. "We heard what happened," old Pete Martinez said, gripping Ezra's hand. "Heard about the fire. Heard about your wife nearly dying to get those documents." He shook his head. "Man's gone too far this time. We should have stood up years ago." "Why didn't you?" Clara asked. Not accusatory, just curious. Fear. Pete didn't flinch from the truth. Brennan's got money, lawyers, friends in high places. Fighting him alone meant losing everything. He looked at Clara with something like wonder. "But you didn't fight alone. You kept getting back up. Made us realize we could too." The night before the hearing, Clara sat at the Miller's kitchen table and wrote. Not legal arguments, Ezra and the other ranchers were handling those, pooling their knowledge and resources, building a case that could stand up to Brennan's expensive lawyers. Clara wrote something else. Something personal. She wrote about arriving in Wyoming 5 months ago, rejected and alone. About finding a family that needed her as much as she needed them. about a dying boy whose mother's love had saved them all, even from beyond the grave. She wrote about what Brennan had done. Not accusations she couldn't prove, but the truth of what his greed had cost them their home, their animals, their sense of safety. She wrote about standing in the snow, watching everything burn, about her children's screams, about choosing to fight instead of surrender. And she wrote about what family really meant. "What's that?" Ezra asked, looking over her shoulder. "Insurance." Clara folded the pages carefully. "If the legal arguments fail, I want people to hear the truth. All of it." "Clara, I know it's risky, but Brennan's lawyers will twist everything, make us look like the villains. Someone needs to tell our side." She met his eyes. "I'm good with words, Ezra. Let me use them." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he kissed her forehead. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you. Proudest man in Wyoming. Even if we lose, we won't lose." His voice was fierce. "Not with you fighting beside me." The courthouse was packed. Clara had expected a small hearing, a few officials and lawyers in a dusty room. Instead, she found standing room only, ranchers, townspeople, even some folks she didn't recognize who'd traveled from neighboring counties to see what would happen. Brennan sat at the front with 3 lawyers, looking smug in his expensive suit. He didn't seem concerned by the crowd. If anything, he looked amused. "All this fuss," Clara heard him mutter to his lead attorney, "won't change a thing." She wanted to slap the smile off his face. Instead, she took her seat beside Ezra, and the children held her head high and waited. Judge Morrison entered, the same judge who'd dismissed Brennan's first complaint months ago. He looked older, tired, like a man who'd seen too much corruption and wasn't sure he could fight it anymore. "This hearing is to address the ongoing dispute over the Hartwell property boundaries," Morrison began. "Mr. Brennan, you've filed new claims challenging the validity of the original survey. Mr. Hartwell, you've filed counterclaims alleging fraud and intimidation." He sighed. "Let's hear it." Brennan's lawyers went first. They were good. Clara had to admit that. They presented their case with smooth confidence, casting doubt on the original survey, suggesting the boundaries had been accidentally mismarked, implying that Ezra's family had known for years and covered it up. "The Hartwell claim to Willow Creek has always been questionable," the lead lawyer concluded. "The original surveyor was known to make errors. The deed itself contains ambiguities. My client simply seeks to establish the true boundaries based on accurate modern measurements." Clara's hands clenched in her lap. Lies, all lies, but delivered so smoothly they almost sounded reasonable. Then it was their turn. Ezra stood holding the certified documents Clara had nearly died for. "My family has owned this land since 1867, he said, his voice steady. "My father bought it legal and proper, filed all the paperwork with the territorial office. I've got the original deed right here, and I've got certified copies of the original survey, verified by the Helena Land Office just 3 weeks ago." He laid the documents on the judge's desk. Morrison studied them, his expression unreadable. "These appear to be in order," Morrison said slowly. "Mr. Brennan's lawyers." The lead lawyer barely glanced at the papers. "Documents can be forged. Certifications can be bought. My client maintains that the original survey was flawed, regardless of what subsequent copies might show." "That's a serious accusation," Morrison said. "You're suggesting the territorial office in Helena is complicit in fraud. I'm suggesting that errors compound over time, that original mistakes get replicated instead of corrected." Clara couldn't take it anymore. She stood. "Your Honor, may I speak?" Morrison raised an eyebrow. "This is an unusual request, Mrs. Hartwell. These are unusual circumstances." Clara stepped forward, ignoring the murmur that ran through the crowd. "I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the proper procedures and legal language. But I know the truth, and I think everyone in this room deserves to hear it." Morrison studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Very well, but keep it brief." Clara took a deep breath. This was it. Everything she'd been through, everything she'd survived, came down to this moment. 5 months ago, I came to Wyoming as a mail-order bride, she began. I traveled 1,800 miles to marry a man I'd never met, hoping to find a home. Instead, I was rejected the moment I arrived, told I wasn't good enough because I couldn't bear children. She heard Emmy's small gasp behind her, felt Ezra's steady presence. I should have left. Gone back east, licked my wounds, accepted that I was broken goods. That's what Ezra expected me to do. That's what I expected myself to do. She paused. Instead, I stayed. I became a teacher to 3 motherless children. I fell in love with a family that needed me as much as I needed them. And I learned something that changed everything. She turned to face the crowd, making eye contact with as many people as she could. Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about showing up every day, even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. Even when the world tells you you're not enough. Her voice strengthened. That's what the Hartwells taught me. That's what I'm fighting for. She pulled out the pages she'd written the night before. Cornelius Brennan doesn't want justice. He wants control. He wants Willow Creek because whoever controls the water controls the entire valley. For years, he's been buying up land, pressuring families to sell using lawyers and money and fear to get what he wants. Brennan's lawyer stood. Your Honor, this is defamatory. Let her finish, Morrison said quietly. Clara continued. When we refused to sell, things escalated. Our fences were cut. Ezra was shot and left for dead by 3 men who then rode toward Brennan's property. Our house was burned with our children inside. Her voice cracked on the last words. My daughters screamed while everything they knew went up in flames. My son who has weak lungs, nearly suffocated from the smoke. The courtroom was dead silent. I can't prove Brennan ordered those things. I'm not a detective, but I know what I've seen. I know what we've survived. And I know that a man who would do those things or pay others to do them doesn't deserve to win. She turned back to Judge Morrison. Those documents are real. I walked 20 miles through a blizzard to get them, nearly died in an avalanche bringing them home. Maggie Hartwell, Ezra's first wife, the mother of those 3 children, she made those copies years ago because she knew someday they might be needed. She protected her family, even from beyond the grave. Clara's voice broke, but she pushed through. I'm asking you to honor that protection. I'm asking you to look at the evidence, not the expensive lawyers. I'm asking you to remember that justice isn't supposed to be for sale. She sat down. Her legs were shaking so badly she wasn't sure they'd hold her. Emmy's hand found hers, squeezed tight. Judge Morrison was silent for a long moment. He looked at the documents again, looked at Brennan, looked at the crowd. I'd like to hear from others, he said finally. Anyone else who has information relevant to this case. Old Pete Martinez stood up. I do, Your Honor. Brennan's men have been pressuring my family for 3 years. Threats, cut fences, poisoned water. I kept quiet because I was scared. Not anymore. Another man stood. Same here. Lost 2 horses last year, someone let 'em loose in a blizzard. Brennan offered to buy my land for half its value the next week. One by one they stood. 12 ranchers, then 15, then 20. Each with a story, each with evidence of Brennan's tactics. Each finally brave enough to speak. Brennan's face went from smug to furious to something that looked almost like fear. Your Honor, his lawyer said, voice strained. This is completely irregular. What's irregular? Morrison interrupted. Is a man who's been terrorizing this valley for a decade, while decent folks were too scared to speak up. He turned to Brennan. You've made a lot of enemies, Cornelius. Today they're finally talking. I'll appeal, Brennan sputtered. I'll take this to the Territorial Supreme Court. You can try. Morrison's voice was ice. But based on the evidence presented today, certified documents proving the Hartwell boundaries are accurate, plus testimony from 20 witnesses about your intimidation tactics, I'm ruling in favor of the Hartwells. The land boundaries stand as originally surveyed. Willow Creek remains their property. The courtroom exploded in cheers. Clara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. They'd won. Against all odds, against money and lawyers and power, they'd won. Ezra pulled her into his arms, and she buried her face against his chest, laughing and crying at the same time. "We did it," she gasped. "We actually did it." "You did it." Ezra's voice was rough. "You gave people courage, made them believe they could stand up. We did it together." The children mobbed them both, all three talking at once. Emmy was bouncing. Samuel was grinning wider than Clara had ever seen. And Josie, fierce, guarded Josie, had tears streaming down her face. "You saved us," Josie said. "You saved our home." "Our home," Clara corrected, pulling her close. "This is our home, our family, our future." Through the crowd, Clara saw Brennan being escorted out by the sheriff. His face was murderous, but there was fear underneath. He'd lost more than a legal case today. He'd lost his power, his reputation, his grip on the valley. "This isn't over," he spat as he passed them. Clara met his eyes without flinching. "Yes, it is." The weeks after the hearing were a blur of hard work and unexpected joy. The ranchers who'd testified made good on their promises to help. They arrived with lumber and nails and tools, with extra hands and strong backs. What would have taken Ezra months to rebuild alone took weeks with a community behind him. The new house rose from the ashes of the old one, smaller, simpler, but built with something the original never had. It was built with hope. "It's not as grand," Ezra said, standing beside Clara as the last of the roof went on. "Maggie's house had more rooms, better windows. This house has something better." Clara leaned against him. "This house was built by people who chose to help. That makes it sacred." "Sacred." Ezra tested the word. "Never thought of buildings that way." "It's not the building, it's what it represents." Clara watched Samuel racing Emmy across the yard, their laughter carrying on the spring breeze. Watched Josie helping Mrs. Miller hang curtains in the new kitchen. It represents survival, community, love. "You talk pretty." Ezra smiled. "Has anyone ever told you that?" "A little girl once did. She said I talk like the books her mama used to read." Ezra's smile softened. She wasn't wrong. Spring came slowly to Wyoming, but it came. The snow melted. The creek ran high and clear. New grass pushed through the mud, and the cattle that had survived the winter grew fat on fresh pasture. Clara planted a garden where Maggie's had been. Different flowers, different plants, but the same love poured into the soil. "Mama would have liked these," Josie said one afternoon, watching Clara work. She'd started calling Clara Mama, after the hearing shy at first, then with growing confidence. She always said gardens were hope you could see growing. "That's beautiful." Clara straightened, pressing a hand to her aching back. "Your mother sounds like she was wise." She was. Josie knelt in the dirt beside her. "Can I help?" "Always." They worked side by side as the sun tracked across the sky, mother and daughter, in every way that mattered, planting seeds that would bloom long after they were both gone. In April, word came that Cornelius Brennan had been arrested. "Arson charges," the sheriff said, delivering the news in person. "One of his men turned on him, gave detailed testimony about the fire at your place, about the shooting. Brennan's looking at 10 years minimum." Ezra's face was stone. "Good. Thought you'd want to know." The sheriff tipped his hat. "Justice might be slow out here, but it comes eventually." After he left, Clara found Ezra on the porch, staring at nothing. "How do you feel?" she asked, sitting beside him. "I don't know." He was quiet for a long moment. "Relieved, I guess. Satisfied. But also—" He shook his head. "It doesn't bring back what we lost. The horses, the house, the months of fear." "No, it doesn't." Clara took his hand. "But it means no one else has to lose those things because of him. It means the valley is safe." Because of you. Because of all of us. She squeezed his fingers. I just got the ball rolling. Everyone else chose to push. You always do that. Ezra turned to look at her. Give credit away. Act like you're not remarkable. He cupped her face. You are Clara. You're the most remarkable person I've ever known. Well, she smiled, you're biased. Damn right I am. He kissed her softly. Speaking of which, I think we've put something off long enough. What's that? Making you my wife. Properly. With a ceremony and witnesses and a party after. His eyes held hers. Marry me, Clara. Not because you're stranded here, not because it's convenient, not because the children need you. Marry me because I love you. Because I can't imagine my life without you. Because you're already my partner in everything that matters, and I want the world to know it. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Is that a proposal? It's a promise. Ezra pulled a ring from his pocket, simple gold worn smooth. This was my mother's. She gave it to me before she died, told me to put it on the finger of someone worthy. He swallowed hard. That's you, Clara. It's always been you from the moment you walked out onto that porch and told Brennan where to shove his threats. Clara laughed through her tears. That's the moment you knew. That's the moment I knew I was in trouble. He slid the ring onto her finger. So will you? Yes. The word came out choked, overwhelmed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Ezra pulled her into his arms, and Clara held on tight, feeling for the first time in her life that she'd found exactly where she was supposed to be. The wedding was held on a Sunday in May, in front of the new house, with half the valley in attendance. Clara wore a dress Mrs. Miller had helped her make, simple white cotton with blue ribbons, nothing fancy, but perfect. Emmy had flowers in her hair. Samuel stood beside his father as best man. And Josie read a poem she'd written herself about mothers and daughters and love that transcended death. I have 2 mothers, Josie said, her voice clear and strong. One who gave me life, one who gave me hope. Both of them loved me. Both of them are part of who I am. She looked at Clara with eyes that held no more walls. Mama Maggie taught me to be brave. Mama Clara taught me to be brave again. Clara wept openly, and she wasn't the only one. Reverend Stone performed the ceremony with tears in his own eyes. Do you, Ezra Samuel Hartwell, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and cherish until death parts you? I do. Ezra's voice was steady, his eyes never leaving Clara's face. I do, and I will every day for the rest of my life. And do you, Clara May Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Clara thought about the journey that had brought her here. 1,800 miles, 23 days on trains and stagecoaches. A rejection that should have broken her, a blizzard that nearly killed her, a fire that destroyed everything she'd built, and through all of it, this man, these children, this family she'd never expected to find. I do, she said, with everything I am and everything I have. Then by the power vested in me by the territory of Wyoming, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Reverend Stone smiled. You may kiss your bride. Ezra kissed her while the crowd cheered and the children whooped, and somewhere Clara was sure Maggie Hartwell smiled down on the family she'd loved enough to save. That night, after the guests had gone and the children were asleep, Clara stood on the porch of her home, her real home, built with her own hands and the hands of people who loved her, and looked out at the Wyoming sky. Ezra came to stand beside her, wrapping his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how strange life is. Clara leaned back against his chest. 6 months ago, I was the most broken person I knew. Barren. Rejected. Convinced I was worthless, because I couldn't do the one thing women are supposed to do. And now I'm a wife, a mother, part of something so much bigger than myself. She turned in his arms to face him. You gave me that, Ezra. You and the children. You gave me a reason to matter. You always mattered. Ezra tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You just needed people who could see it. I see it now. Finally. Clara pressed her hand over her heart. I spent so long thinking I was empty. Broken. But I wasn't empty, Ezra. I was just waiting to be filled with the right things. And now I'm overflowing. He kissed her under the stars, and Clara thought about the woman she'd been when she stepped off that stage, terrified, ashamed, expecting nothing. She thought about Emmy's arms around her neck, about Samuel's quiet trust, about Josie's walls finally crumbling. She thought about Ezra's hands and heart, and the way he looked at her like she was the answer to prayers he'd forgotten how to speak. She'd come to Wyoming looking for acceptance. She'd found something infinitely better. She'd found family, purpose, herself. And standing there in Ezra's arms, surrounded by the life she'd built from ashes, Clara finally understood the truth that had been waiting for her all along. She had never been barren. She had simply been waiting for the right family to love. The morning sun rose over Sweetwater Valley, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Clara woke to the sound of children laughing outside, to the smell of coffee from the kitchen, to Ezra's arm still wrapped around her waist. She lay there for a moment, letting it sink in. This was real. This was hers. This was forever. You awake, Ezra murmured against her hair. Thinking. About what? About how I almost didn't come here. How I almost stayed in Boston, settled for a life I hated, because I thought it was all I deserved. I'm glad you didn't. So am I. Clara rolled over to face him. I'm glad I got on that train. Glad I didn't run when you rejected me. Glad I stayed even when staying meant fighting for every inch of ground. You're a fighter, Ezra smiled. Always have been. I learned from the best. She kissed him softly. From a stubborn rancher who wouldn't know how to quit if his life depended on it. My life did depend on it. Multiple times. He grew serious. You saved us, Clara. All of us. Me, the children, this ranch. Even the valley. None of it would exist without you. It exists because of all of us. Together. Together. Ezra agreed. That's the only way anything good ever happens. Together. Downstairs, Emmy shrieked with laughter. Samuel's voice rose in mock protest. Josie's exasperated sigh was audible even through the floorboards. Clara smiled. I think our children need supervision. Our children. Ezra's eyes went soft. I love hearing you say that. Get used to it. Clara threw off the covers. You're going to hear it every day for the rest of your life. She went downstairs to find chaos. Emmy had apparently dumped a bucket of water on Samuel, who was chasing her around the kitchen, while Josie tried to rescue the biscuits she was making from getting trampled. Morning, Mama? Josie said, not looking up from her work. Emmy started it. Did not. Did too. Enough. Clara's voice cut through the noise like it always did. 3 children froze, looking at her with varying degrees of guilt. Emmy, clean up the water. Samuel, help your sister. Josie, those biscuits look perfect. Order restored, just like that. Ezra appeared behind her, still rumpled from sleep. How do you do that? Magic. Clara smiled. Also love. They know I mean it when I tell them what to do, and they know I'd never ask them to do anything I wouldn't do myself. That's not magic, that's motherhood. Clara felt the words settle into her bones. Motherhood. She'd spent 2 years believing she'd never know what that meant. Now she knew it had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with choice. She chose these children every day, and every day they chose her back. That was motherhood. That was family. That was everything. After breakfast, Clara walked out to Maggie's grave on the hill overlooking the valley. She came here sometimes when she needed to think, when she needed to feel connected to the woman who had loved this family before her, who had made everything possible with a hidden folder of documents and a love strong enough to reach beyond death. Thank you, Clara said quietly, kneeling in the grass. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if there's anything after this life. But just in case, thank you. For loving them so well. For protecting them even when you couldn't be here. For leaving space in their hearts for someone like me. The wind stirred her hair. Maybe it was imagination, but Clara could have sworn she smelled flowers, the same flowers Emmy said her mother had planted. I'll take care of them, Clara continued. I promise. Not to replace you. Never to replace you. But to love them the way they deserve to be loved. The way you would want them to be loved. She stayed there for a long time, watching the sun climb higher, feeling the warmth on her face. When she finally stood, she saw Ezra walking toward her. His limp from the gunshot wound almost gone now. Thought I'd find you here, he said. I was talking to Maggie. Good. Ezra took her hand. She'd want to know you. She'd want to thank you for what you've done for her children. I hope she's at peace, knowing they're okay. She is. Ezra's voice was certain. I feel it sometimes. When Emmy laughs, or Josie writes her poems, or Samuel makes it through a whole night without coughing. I feel her, and she's at peace. They walked back to the house together, hand in hand. The children were waiting on the porch, Emmy bouncing with excitement about something, Samuel pretending to be too old for such things. Josie watching with the knowing smile of a young woman who'd grown up too fast but was finally learning to be a child again. Mama, Papa, we have a surprise. What kind of surprise? Emmy grabbed Clara's hand and dragged her inside. The kitchen table was set for a special meal. Flowers from the garden sat in a jar, and on Clara's plate a folded piece of paper. Open it, Emmy demanded. Clara unfolded it. Inside, in 3 different handwritings, were 3 simple words. We love you. Underneath, Emmy had drawn a family, 2 tall figures. 3 smaller ones, all holding hands under a smiling sun. Samuel had added a house with smoke rising from the chimney. And Josie had written a postscript, Thank you for choosing us. Clara's eyes blurred with tears. She looked at her children hers, in every way that mattered, and felt her heart crack open with a love so big it could barely fit in her chest. I didn't choose you, she said, her voice thick. I found you. The best thing I ever found in my life. Emmy threw her arms around Clara's waist. Samuel joined, then Josie, and finally Ezra, wrapping them all in his strong arms. They stood there in the kitchen of their new house, 5 people who had found each other through rejection, and grief, and fire, and faith, holding on like they'd never let go. Because they wouldn't. Not ever. Clara May Whitmore had traveled 1,800 miles to find a husband who didn't want her. Instead, she'd found 3 children who needed her, a man who loved her, a community that stood with her, and a home that couldn't be burned down because it wasn't made of wood and nails. It was made of choice, of courage, of the stubborn refusal to give up even when the world said she wasn't enough. She had been called barren once, but standing there surrounded by the family she'd built from nothing, Clara knew the truth. She had never been empty. She had simply been waiting to be filled with love. And now finally, impossibly beautifully, she was home.